Hi, my name is Amrit. We've heard that IIT Madras is the best place to build. So we've come down to the Sudhan Shankar Innovation Hub. We want to meet some people. These are builders. We want to talk to them about their work and also ask them what makes IIT Madras the best place to build.
But just the thought that, something like this could eventually solve this problem created so much joy for him. So I tell people that if anyone else had been in my situation, they would have wanted to start a company too. Post 2019, if you have taken a SIM card, chances are that you would have gone through HyperVerge KYC systems.
Hi, welcome to the Best Place to Build podcast. Today we are sitting with K. Vignesh, or KV as he's known. KV is the CTO of HyperVerge, one of India's largest AI companies. You may not have heard about them because their product goes into other products. So let's start with welcoming Vignesh. Hi, KV.
I'm with. Thanks for having me on this podcast, and always happy to be here. The Center for Innovation and IIT Madras is home to us. This is where everything began for us.
Right. You have a deep connection with CFI. We'll get into that, but let's do one thing. Let's start with what is HyperVerge? What does it do?
HyperVerge is an AI platform for banks, financial institutions, and other large enterprises to verify and onboard their customers in a remote and automated way. Right? In many parts of the world, this is referred to as a KYC process. So, what is KYC? In simple terms, are you actually who you say you are, right? And are the credentials that you're providing verified and actually belong to you? For example, your mobile number, your bank account, your address, are these details actually authentic and do they belong to you? Why is KYC important, right? Now, the first factor is trust in any day-to-day interaction comes from verifying the person who is performing the task. Imagine if I take a loan in your name, right? And I take that money and abscond. Someone comes knocking on your door to recover the money, but the money would have been with someone else, right? So, verifying in a really reliable manner that you are the person who is applying for the loan ensures that the money is safe and can be repaid appropriately, right? Similarly, if you take opening a bank account, verifying the bank account holder ensures that the account is safe, the account is not used for tax evasion or money laundering or funding terrorist activities or other antisocial activities, right? Similarly, if you take someone getting a SIM card, only if you can verify who is the individual who is taking the SIM card, can you ensure that the SIM is not used for unlawful purposes. So, this is where KYC comes in. It ensures that trust in day-to-day interactions is something that is taken care of. The second reason why automated KYC is helpful, if we look at the way it was done before, say if we take an affluent person in the city, for example, and you want to open a bank account or you want to apply for a loan or invest in a product, something like that, you can walk into a branch or a relationship manager or a branch correspondent will come to your place. They will bring in the forms, you can fill it out, they will take copies of your ID cards and other documentation.
I mean, I'm not an affluent person, but that's happened to me also, where the bank guy has come to my house.
Absolutely. You might consider yourself not affluent, but
Somebody else might.
yeah, exactly, right? So they will submit all of these details. Someone verifies the details, does data entry, ensures that the person who was meant and the person whose details are submitted are the same. The documents are verified. All of these things, right? Now, when this happens in this manner, the cost of processing this application is significantly high. The
Bank is willing to take that cost.
to take the cost from you. But if we go, say, 300 kilometers outside the city, the need for essential financial products remains the same, right? The need for savings, the need for credit, the need for investments, insurance. These are essentially the same for that individual as well, right? but the ticket size or the amount for which they might be taking that financial product might be very different.
Sure.
And the cost of processing that application might be significantly higher and might not be viable at that ticket size, right? Imagine you take a home loan or you take a personal loan for lakhs of rupees. Someone else in a village might be taking a loan for a 3,000 rupee or a 5,000 rupee and so on.
So the margin is too small for me to send someone to verify
Exactly.
he stays where he's saying, if it's the same person.
Correct. So when these checks are done by AI in a fully automated manner, where people sitting anywhere can just click a selfie of themselves, can click photos of their ID cards and other documents, submit it, and this whole process is verified using AI, then the cost of processing this application goes down drastically.
Right.
That the financial product becomes more affordable to everyone in the country, right? Second, it becomes accessible anywhere, anytime. From in the middle of the night, I have a urgent requirement for some financial product, say a small ticket loan that I need to apply for. I can just download an app from a Play Store and do the process, be done with it, and have money even disbursed into my account in less than 5 minutes. The accessibility of the financial product also increases when this KYC verification is done in a remote and automated manner using AI.
I remember speaking to you sometime back, and you were telling me of a project where HyperVerge is also helping check for somebody's liveness.
Yeah.
Is that also like? Correct me if I'm wrong. The use case was for people to prove that they are still alive, so that they can collect their pension. Is that right?
Yeah, that is also one of the use case. So, identity verification is applicable in a lot of processes, right? One such example is disbursement of pension. Again, here previously, if you had elders in the family who collect their pension, they will have to go to a branch in person to prove that they are alive, and this is the person who is actually the pension account holder, right? And post this verification, something known as a liveness certificate is issued, and basis that their pension is disbursed, and this is something that they have to do every year or at some particular frequency, right? Now with AI, you can be sitting at your home, you can capture a selfie or record a video, and from that we can verify that there is a live person, and this matches with the details of the account holder, and the life certificate is issued in an automated way, and the pension is disbursed as well automatically.
So what you're saying is that the financial institution or a telecom institution needs to know who you are.
Yeah.
Needs to be able to trust your identity.
Correct.
And there, if it's a remote operation and I can't afford to send someone to your place, then remote KYC
Yeah.
suite of products like HyperVerge comes into play.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you a question. So today it feels very obvious because like my phone knows who I am because I can scan my face and it opens up. And it does so like, in a fraction of a second. I just open it and it opens, right? So you started way long back, right? Like I think iPhone introduced face unlock in 2017. Yeah. So you were predating that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And also I saw on your website, I've heard you say talk about it, that in India, almost 300, 400 million people, correct me if the number is wrong,
Yeah, more than that right now.
more than that, have
Yes.
used HyperVerge face match, liveness, and fraud detection, right?
Yeah.
So if I am a customer and I'm listening to this show, because your product goes into something else, so how will I know if I've used HyperVerge?
Yeah. By now, more than 1 billion people have gone through HyperVerge identity verification systems in one form or another. The problem that we spoke about is universal. It's not just in India, anywhere else in the world. If you have to open a bank account or buy an insurance or invest in a product or get a loan or purchase a SIM card, the process is the same, right? And there will be local variations, local regulations that are different, but largely the need to identify who is the individual who is receiving this service is the same. So more than 1 billion people across the world have gone through this process.
Is amazing.
Talking about examples in India, 2 of the 3 telecom companies in India use HyperVerge for identity verification for their SIM card disbursement process. So post 2019, If you have taken a SIM card, chances are that you would have gone through HyperVerge KYC systems.
And what changed in 2019? Why did you say post 2019?
Around the end of 2018, Supreme Court had come up with this, guideline that private institutions should not use the other biometric system, fingerprint based biometric system for disbursement of their products for KYC. And at that time, telecom companies were amongst the largest consumers of this biometric KYC system. Jio was growing rapidly, and at that time, Jio was onboarding around 1 crore customers each month. 1 crore SIM cards were being disbursed each month, and this regulation had hit them very hard. Their onboarding rate had drastically dropped from crore customers to significantly lesser, and they had resorted to a manual process, verification process, where people had to walk in with their ID card. The customer photograph was taken, photograph of these documents were taken, and someone was verifying a lot of these details in the back end.
So earlier they were using Aadhaar. Supreme Court said don't use Aadhaar because you're a private institution. You don't have the, I don't know what you're going to do with Aadhaar data, so don't collect Aadhaar data. And then they said, oh, now we can't use Aadhaar, you have to do everything manually.
Yeah.
And India, of course, is a really large country, which would mean like 1 million people taking photos at.
Yeah.
So then they moved to digital onboarding.
Yeah, so there multiple challenges existed at that point of time. One, your turnaround time for processing the application increases significantly, right? So the way SIM card onboarding happens is you walk into a store, you submit these details, and you walk out with the physical SIM card.
Yeah.
And post the verification of your identity, the SIM card gets activated, right? Which means that if the agent who's present with you has failed to capture details properly, or your
Simply
documents
typed
not
my name
clear,
wrong.
or has typed the name wrong, or your selfie is not clear, or there are multiple people standing in the background and you don't know like whose photo this is, anything that is wrong in the application.
Yeah, sure. 3 people have come. I have taken your photo and taken his ID card. Whatever,
Exactly.
like by mistake.
Right. What ends up happening is that the user walks out with the physical SIM card, but the application post review gets rejected later, right? And a physical SIM card is lost. It can't be activated.
And it's a very bad customer experience.
It's a bad customer experience, right? Second, the turnaround time of this application increases drastically from them being able to activate the SIM card in less than 5 minutes to, on an average, it increasing beyond 60 minutes. And in some cases, we've seen it go till 12 hours or so also, right? Which means you have unhappy customers who are calling their customer care and service centers and asking, what is the status of my SIM card activation, right? Is it done? When will it get activated? And because of that uncertainty, they keep getting constant calls. And when people are unhappy, it is very easy for them to switch over to some other provider who is able to activate faster, right? So this was a problem that they were facing. So we created an automated KYC process leveraging AI, where every check that needs to be done on the customer's photograph, on the documents that are submitted, are done real time, instantaneously, and the feedback is given to the user, right? And if everything passes, your SIM card activation also happens before you walk out of the store itself.
Right. So in 2019, the telecom companies at the time moved to HyperVerge.
Move to HyperVerge for their onboarding process. Other examples,
So what you're saying is if I have bought a SIM card after 2019, then I have used HyperVerge.
very likely.
Very likely.
Very likely. If you've opened a bank account with SBI digitally, or taken a credit card from SBI, very likely that you would have gone through HyperVerge verification process. Pension account holders on SBI could have leveraged the online verification process for pension disbursement. Delivery partner on Swiggy capturing a selfie to authenticate themselves, right? To know that the person who was originally verified for a person with decent background checks and police verification, etc.
Sure.
Is that the same person who is right now delivering things to you, right? Someone is knocking on your door and entering and delivering a parcel, or as part of Swiggy Genie, they might be collecting your item and they might be delivering it somewhere. how do you know you're safe or the item is safe? Swiggy uses HyperVerge for
that's interesting.
verification of the delivery partner at the beginning and authentication of them later as they do their regular deliveries, right? That is another place where you might have seen HyperVerge systems.
So what you're saying is that if I've used SBI, if I've used, if I've opened if I've taken a SIM card, if I've bought a financial products in the last 4-5 years, very likely that I've used HyperVerge.
Yeah, investment is another example. 7 out of the top 10 investment apps in the country use HyperVerge for their KYC and verification process.
I also understand that since your technology goes into some other companies, there must be companies you can't talk about because your NDA will not allow it. So let's just leave it to people's imagination.
Yes.
But that's amazing. So 1 billion people across the world have used HyperVerge at some point. What I'm interested to know is you started before face match. So I think this is an interesting question to ask you. You started before face match became a commonplace thing. Now it's obvious. There is this criticism of AI companies that most AI companies are wrappers and that they use some API call and they're just building a product around it. Is HyperVerge like that or is it different?
So HyperVerge builds almost all of our AI models are built in house. Our primary focus is on problems that general purpose AI technology cannot solve really well. And I will explain this with examples on what we are doing. So if you take face recognition as a general problem, right? Like you said, there are enough face recognition APIs out there. Every standard cloud provider, AWS, Google, Azure, all of them have their own face recognition models, right? And there are lots of general purpose face recognition models out there. But if you take the specific process of KYC for a financial institution and the way that needs to work and what are the consequences of that not working well, there are lots of nuances in that which needs to be solved much better than what a general purpose face recognition model can do, right? For example, if you take a match between a customer photograph and an ID card, right? So this ID card might have been taken at whatever age. Today, if you take an Aadhaar card, you might have taken it when you were 18 or before that, your driver's license, your voter ID.
I mean, when I was 18, Aadhaar was not there, but
Other, yeah. So for a lot of people, the ID.
you've grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
Or you know what happens to me a little bit sometimes is that if I'm changing my specs, then it doesn't recognize.
Exactly. So a lot of these changes happen, right? And in India, you have so many of these variations. How you looked earlier, how you look now might be different. There are so many ethnicities, so many hairstyles, other extra wear that you might have. All of these things keep changing. That is one.
Just thinking of a cinematographer who had long hair and was just cut it, and a producer who had lot more hair and is losing it very fast.
Yeah, these are very common set of
Perfect.
changes that we see, right? Second, it has to work in all kinds of devices. When we talk about process across the length and breadth of the country, essential process, right? Like opening a bank account, getting a SIM card, these things happen in every corner of the country, right? So it needs to work on every type of device that people have. It could be a 3,000 rupees smartphone, 5,000 rupees smartphone, or a high-end phone. But it needs to work on that. It needs to work on all kinds of bandwidth conditions, 2G, 3G. That's the really.
In fact, as you're saying it, I'm thinking that I know that DigiYatra doesn't use HyperVerge. I've had so many cases where DigiYatra simply is not working for me and I have to sort of walk out of the queue, get in. It's a very frustrating experience when you know that face match is a technology that works every time on my phone and maybe every time on a HyperVerge. But
Right.
and when you experience it not working,
Yeah.
it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Exactly. So we take these problems very seriously and build specifically focused on use cases that we are solving for. So for a financial onboarding process, how can we have the best possible model in the world which can be optimized for these conditions, right? Optimized to work in these conditions really well. If you take the problem of liveness, whether there is a real person standing in front of the camera or is it a photo of another photo or a spoof, right? So the way we have designed the system, is very different from what existed in the world or what people normally thought about. So back in 2016-17, the most commonly available liveness systems used to ask the user to perform some gesture.
Turn your head.
Turn your head or smile or blink or do one of those activities, right? Now we were thinking about how can we imagine every person in the country has to be able to do this. Then how do you communicate these instructions across? It's going to be very hard, and literacy rate in the country is what it is, and it has to work with that. There's so many languages. How do you explain these actions very clearly to people? Right? There are going to be drop-offs which are very, very significant if we expect those things to happen. So first call that we took was that it has to be a passive liveness system, which means the user should not need to actively participate in that, right? So you just point and it should work.
Yeah. Take a selfie, it's done.
Take a selfie, it's done.
Yeah.
Second, the other thing that people did, okay, I cut down on gestures, but can I record a video? When I record a video, I will have, a lot more frames to process. I can see the user for a longer period and the AI models can work better, right? But here, again, we felt that, this needs to work on all kinds of bandwidth conditions, and we might not always be able to record a video and upload a video and use that to process, and the user experience has to be really quick, right? The turnaround time has to be low. We don't want the user to drop up.
I want to underscore that point. When you are talking of a system that processes 100 million, even a 1% change is a million people, right?
Exactly.
A million interactions.
Exactly.
So maybe somebody
And if you translate that to lifetime value of those 1% of users who are lost, that is a huge loss to a financial institution or any other enterprise doing onboarding at scale.
That's 1 million people you are saying, no, you have to turn your head again.
Absolutely.
And they're going to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Right.
So this whole thing has been built as a passive single image based liveness, right? So each of these models have been built in a manner where for that use case we are the best in the world at solving that problem.
Nice. So what I'm understanding is that it's not a wrapper. You built your models from scratch. I've also heard Arvind from Perplexity say that how does it matter if it's a wrapper? Everything is a wrapper. Maybe if you boil it down, then human beings are wrappers of genes, and that's fine.
Okay.
Like the point that you're making about general purpose AI being okay for a lot of circumstances, but in a lot of special cases, you need things that are built ground up. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So our focus that way has been and see, we are here to build a sustainable business in the long run, right? So if we know that big tech is going to always be on the lookout for general purpose AI models that they can launch, that will always be out there. So if we have to build a sustainable business, we have to be differentiated and we need to focus on problems which general purpose AI cannot solve. So that has largely been our focus. What we have done in KYC in financial services is one example, but continuously our focus will be on, as the AI landscape evolves, what are those problems that general purpose AI cannot solve really well, and those are the use cases that we'll keep going after.
Sure.
To give an example of another company that has done this really well, if you think about the trajectory of Nvidia, even before Nvidia existed, the whole computing wave was extremely hard, extremely popular, and CPUs were doing really well.
Nvidia started in the 90s and Intel started in the 60s. So
yeah, long back, right? And computing devices were hugely popular and very common in the world, and there were also high-end CPUs which were used for high performance computing. But Nvidia kept their focus to what are those use cases or niche problems which are not solved well by the best of CPU compute that is out there, right? And they kept doing more and more experiments, working with research labs, understanding problem statements from various sources which are not solved sufficiently well with the best of high performance compute that existed at that point, right? And few of those experiments became huge successes, right? What happened in GPUs for gaming, for example, that was a huge wave. Bitcoin mining at some point became a huge wave. AI, deep learning, and GPU compute for AI became a huge wave.
Sure. You're saying that they were working on AI chips much before AI chips became a big thing.
Exactly.
They were working on a bunch of very specific problems, and those specific problems became really big.
Correct. Problems which
And the
general
general purpose CPU was not solved.
was not solving really.
Nice. That's a fantastic analogy. And also, like, I like that you've taken Nvidia as an example because it's one of the largest companies of the world. I guess you are manifesting out there that HyperVerge will be that size and impactful. So, on this general purpose, special purpose thing, are there any international benchmarks that measure, uh, say, general purpose face match and pure face match, or general purpose liveness and your liveness? And is there like some way to say that yes, for HyperVerge, for these purposes, HyperVerge tech is much better?
Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Homeland Security in the US conducted a benchmark recently, testing face recognition systems that are built for a customer selfie to ID card matching. That was the primary focus of that benchmark. So there were multiple types of tests that were conducted as part of this benchmark, and 18 of the largest and most prominent identity verification companies were tested as part of this, and HyperVerge was the only company that passed all of the benchmark tests, and this was done by the Department of Homeland Security. Several other examples, NIST has this global benchmark called FRVT. HyperVerge is the highest ranked face recognition vendor in India in this global leaderboard, and amongst most other companies across the world, we are frequently present in the top 10 across the world, right? This is the reason I'm saying frequently is because it's a rolling benchmark. You can make a submission only once in every 4 months. So the ranking keeps varying, but we are among the top 10 companies in the world.
That's amazing. I'm just thinking that what you've said so far is that for a large bank or a telecom or anyone who needs to trust to know its customer and have faith and trust that he's the person he's saying he is remotely.
Yeah.
There are three things. One is that there can be a very small room for error. Almost zero, because if there is error, there's poor customer experience, there's added cost because I'll have to do it again.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's fraud also, right? Once you open up a digital onboarding process for the benefit of millions of people out there who can be catered to for the financial product, right? Which is what helps with the mission of financial inclusion for the country. It also opens up the door for fraudsters to enter. Right? Today, for example, deepfakes are becoming a very common thing, right? You might have seen Nitin Kamath creating a deepfake video and posting it online. The deepfakes of Narayan Murthy that was going viral. Deepfakes of Trump are very popular. So all of these things we keep seeing here. But
I know a very funny video of Trump and Elon Musk dancing. This is definitely not them.
yeah, absolutely. But the more scary side of these things is that when you have someone with your face applying for a loan in your details and actually defaults on it, right? Then there is something at stake, right? So
Yeah.
there's actually money that has gone out from a financial institution to an individual, and it has gone out in the name of a synthetic identity or someone else's identity or stolen credentials, and that money is lost. So
For sure. And for me individually, my credit score is gone.
Right.
I may be, I may not be able to prove that I didn't do it myself.
yeah, so
Cool.
every mistake that is done by an AI model in this process has serious consequences. Be it
And also in India, we are lucky that Aadhaar exists, and there's a central database which sort of verifies the identity.
Yeah.
In a lot of countries, that is also not there. In fact, even in India, maybe 30 years back, getting a driver's license could have been done in many ways.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, how did you get into this space? What was the genesis of your journey into AI?
So genesis of the journey into AI goes way back before HyperVerge began as an organization. So we were a bunch of kids working on this technical club called Computer Vision Group at IIT Madras, at the Center for Innovation at IIT Madras. back then this technology of computer vision was very fascinating for us, because even the thought that like a computer would see and infer and make decisions that a human could do was very fascinating, right? The accuracy and the capability that we had at that point of time was nowhere close to what you have right now, but it was something that was very fascinating. So we started working on different kinds of hobby robotics projects, in which computer vision was an important problem statement. And eventually we represented IITM and India in various international robotics competitions, like underwater vehicles that need to navigate using vision, all terrain vehicles, flying drones that need to navigate using vision. In that process, we became very good at this technology, went head on head against MIT, CMU, Stanford, some of the best out there, and um, learned to do really well in this area, right?
So you were a student group called Computer Vision Group.
Yeah.
In Center for Innovation, and you would help other student groups which are participating in international competitions get their robots to understand and infer and act better.
Correct.
Nice.
Correct. What happened was that over a period of time, we started feeling like kids in a toy store, right? Like you put a kid in a toy store, it plays around with, all kinds of toys for an entire day also. But at the end of the day, it'll just drop all the toys and leave, right? Like nothing has changed in the world because of all of the fun that happened. So we were essentially being kids playing around with technology toys. Amusing ourselves with this, but nothing was changing in the world because of the work that we were doing. Right. So by second year, we took this call that from now on, if we work on anything, it has to be a real world project that someone benefits from.
Yeah.
And that those are the problem statements that.
And you were in your second year when you were thinking like this.
Yeah, of course. The group itself had seniors before me. Kedar had started the computer vision group. He was involved in this process at that point of time. So it was a collective decision. There were multiple people involved, and eventually that became the core
Keval
group.
is now the CEO.
Now
Right?
the CEO, yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually that became the group that started HyperVerge later. We said we will go out there and get problems from the industry and solve those problems, and that should be the primary focus for us. And the way to validate that we are creating real value for them would be that we will charge some money for that, right? It was not from the perspective of making money as students, but to get real validation that they will take us seriously and give us a problem that they really want solved.
Right.
So our first big breakthrough happened when Southern Railways had come to IIT Madras with the problem statement of overhead line inspection. So electrified trains, right? So you have this overhead line that carries power. The engine has the contraption called a pantograph,
That
right?
thing
Like a
goes like that. Yeah.
spring and V type mechanism, which applies pressure upwards and maintains contact with the overhead line, right? So when this contact is uniform and maintained well, you have the vehicle running smoothly. If the contact is not at the center of the pantograph, imagine if it is at the side and this is applying pressure upwards, then it starts tilting, right? And the wire can slip and snap. And you have like a 25 kV line that is lying on the track. In our country, people are used to walking over the track and crossing lines, right? So it was a real serious threat to human lives, and three such incidents had happened just in the previous 1 month before Southern Railways team had approached IITM with this problem statement. And this had come through to ICNSR, and Professor Krishnan Balasubramanian sir had suggested that why not this computer vision group look into this problem statement and see if we can do something. And the reason computer vision might have been needed to solve this problem or some other equivalent methodology was because whatever electronic sensors you put on top of the engine, it might have induced current, right, and wrong reading because of it, since you have a 25 kV line overhead. So we started working on this problem, and initially, we had no clue what to do about this. We would go there, try.
One second. Did you say that the problem came to IIT Madras?
Yeah.
And a professor at IIT Madras said, you know what, our students in second year can just do this.
I would say, and I'm very grateful that he took the call to expose us to these kind of industrial problems.
Trusted you a lot.
Yeah, we had done.
Kedar is very persuasive. And I guess you must have done really good work by here.
Yeah, we had professors guiding us through the process, being involved in interacting with authorities from the railways, and guiding us through the process. But very grateful that he took the call to expose us to this real world problem at that point.
So then you were working with the railway to solve this issue. But the railways must have had a method before, right?
Yeah. So the previous method that they had involved running a maintenance wagon regularly from time to time. So there are three individuals who are sitting inside this wagon. Now one person is running the maintenance wagon. There is one guy who is sitting near the window looking out and reading out a mass number. He's shouting out a mass number. So the system they had to identify locations along the track was to use a mask number. So this guy is shouting out a number like mask number 1, 2, 3 and so on. There is a glass panel on top of the maintenance wagon, and there's a third guy looking up at the pantograph through the glass panel, and the pantograph has readings marked on it in paint, right? That this is
human vision.
human vision. Yeah. So zeros marked at the center, and then you have like 5, 10, 15 and so on, and minus 5, 10, minus 10, 15. And this guy is looking at the pantograph from a distance through the glass panel, and he is marking down the mass number and the reading of the point of contact of the overhead line and the pantograph from where he is seeing, right? So like there is some parallax error involved and human error in the process, etc. So despite the system existing, the incidents were still happening, right? So it was not um, fully well solved at that point. So every night after the regular electric vehicles and the outstation vehicles are done exiting the city, post 12 o'clock we used to go on our test drives, right? We go on top of the engine, set up a camera, come down, get into the vehicle, and then we go on this drive where we are capturing video, and we are seeing how well we are able to identify if the alignment is good, if you are able to detect the point of contact between the overhead line and the pantograph, the height of the overhead line from the top of the engine. Yeah. So these were the two parameters which are very critical to the health of the overhead line. And this experiment goes on till like 4 a.m. in the morning, and once this setup is done and we enter the electrified section, we can't go up and change anything, right? So you get to do one experiment per night. So we come back in the morning, sleep, wake up, attend our classes.
Okay.
Go in the evening, strategize about what should be the next experiment, set that up, and the system keeps going on. So eventually one day things start to work, and because this is a vision system on the screen, we can see that the outputs are showing up and things are finally starting to work, right? And there is this as a like a programmer and problem solver, I'm looking at it and I feel relieved that finally things are working. Okay, whatever effort we have put over these 2-3 weeks, it's giving some results, so I feel happy. But this guy who used to run this maintenance wagon and come along with us for this testing, he was looking at it and he was like, sir, working, sir, working, sir, working, sir. He was so excited looking at the output. And finally that day, after this test run, we were spending time with him to understand about his life, and he was telling us that during the regular day he runs the local electric train, and apart from that, every time they go on this maintenance run, he has to take the maintenance wagon, and anytime the line goes down, he'll have to rush, do this, they'll have to get to that point, de-electrify, do the maintenance and then go back, right? And
I'm also guessing that if something went wrong, he would be blamed.
yeah,
Like, that's your fault.
yeah, and this was happening at a time when his daughter was in 10th standard and he was feeling bad that he was not able to spend enough time with her, right? And just the thought that something like this could solve his problem, and we were nowhere close to productionizing it, right? It was the first time it had started working, but just the thought that something like this could eventually solve his problem created so much joy for him. So I tell people that if anyone else had been in my situation, they would have wanted to start a company too.
Can I interject you there?
Yeah.
I don't agree with you. I'm thinking of this. Listen to what I have to say. Okay, you have had the unique opportunity of getting a real world problem in your second year. You have taken the effort. You've solved it. It's a brilliant solution. It's working. Everybody's really happy. You could easily put it in your resume and get a great job. Like you would you do a really good job in that interview, right?
Yeah.
So you see how the paths could have easily.
Possibly. But in our trajectory, what ended up happening was that through these different stints at real world problem solving, we could see that what like 500 lines of code I would have written for I could have done that for any other thing, right? For my assignments, I would have done it. So many other instances of me writing that code that it is a very small thing for me as an individual for abilities that I've been fortunate to have had, but in another person's life it means so much, right? It can create a huge world of impact for another person.
That's true.
So when you see that happening firsthand in front of you, that abilities that you're fortunate to have in another person's life creates such a drastic impact, then the question that comes to you is either you can use this ability to see what you can have for yourself. Like I can have a fancy job, make money, be rich, powerful, famous, or whatever, recognized in one of many things, or I can accept the fact that we are already fortunate to have this skill and it can be used to create a lot of impact in the lives of a lot of other people.
Correct.
And see how can I contribute with this ability, right? So that was the thought process that all of us went through together, and that is what eventually led to HyperVerge emerging as a platform for such smart people to come together and see how they can use their abilities to contribute to society.
Fair enough. You're saying that if I'm a builder and I can build and I've taken the effort to learn the tools and the tricks and the and I have the attitude to build, then I have a choice to make on how to use that skill.
Exactly.
Like amazing. You also had an internship at Microsoft in the US, right? When you were at IIT, so that you've seen that end also.
Yeah.
And so for you, that choice is a very conscious choice. That
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was a very conscious choice, and through these internships, you also get the understanding that this ability is valuable, right? That whatever we have learned, see till that point of time, almost everything was about being at the right place at the right time. And there is nothing that I can take credit for. A lot of things happened.
I mean, you can take credit for crossing the and getting a good rack.
I mean, anything could have happened, right? I was fortunate that I was born in a family where they could afford to send me to the right school. I got educated. I had a good set of teachers, good mentors, upskill myself for JE, people who exposed me through that. Got into IITM, again teachers, the Center for Innovation Ecosystem, CVG as a club, all of these things happened. So the abilities that I had at that point of time, I should say I was fortunate to have that. And when I work for these internships, I can see that these abilities are useful in the world, right? That they are actually valuable in solving problems for the world, and you understand and appreciate the value of it.
Yes.
So that led me to believe even better that I should use these abilities for the well-being of people, to solve problems that can impact people at scale, and that would be a great use of this ability that we have.
Amazing.
Everything fails, there is always JE coaching. JE coaching as a backup job. That was our fail safe at that point of time.
That is amazing. You were saying that a lot of luck was involved in you getting here, and a lot of things that other people have done,
Yeah,
pouring their efforts into you.
absolutely.
I'm also thinking that while this is a choice that you made, that you were, of course, you were a founding member of HyperVerge, there were other founders. There were also a lot of other employees who joined you
Yeah.
from the same ecosystem. So it was not an individual, it's not almost 15, 20 people choosing the same thing together.
Yeah.
Uh, Giving up lucrative offers and stuff. Of course, I mean, in hindsight, great decision because a billion people use your technology. So tell us a little bit about your IIT life. How were you in class? How were you? Did you have a nickname? Which hostel were you in? Were you a POR? I don't know.
So I was in Saraswati Hostel, and eh, um, went to CS dual degree between 2010 and 2015. Um, and I think I was very fortunate that this particular branch also happened for me, and a lot of things that I'm doing today are aligned with what I spend time on from my classes as well, right? For a lot of people, it may not be that way post insti days that they do
That's like,
something.
yeah, because you go to class and maybe you have done really well in class, but suddenly you realize that the thing that you're very good at is actually not extremely valuable at that point of time. The companies don't want to pay you for doing that. Yeah. Okay. So you end up doing something else.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that way that the time that I spent in my classes also became a force multiplier of what I was doing otherwise, right? I had CFI and the computer vision group and the projects and eventually HyperVerge, and we started HyperVerge while I was still in college. So there was a lot of support from professors in the department. Professor Anurag Mittal, I've done like multiple computer vision courses with him. He was very instrumental in many of these discussions on computer vision and machine learning. Professor Ravindran again did multiple machine learning and related courses with him.
Professor Ravindra is now the head of the new department of Badwani School of Data Science and AI.
Yeah, very, very happy for that, and very happy that the AI ecosystem in IIT Madras is evolving and doing really well.
And that it would be amiss to skip the fact that one of Professor Ravindran's students is one of the co-founders of Perplexity. Did the same course as you, I guess. Did you know him on campus?
Yeah, I knew him in campus. We went to the same JE coaching center as well. So been interacting with him from before the time he joined IITM, and have had a few interactions through the time. Yeah, nice. Knew him from there. Damn.
Um, you were talking about how you were in Saras, and were you? I'm just intrigued with this idea that students at IITM start companies, and to us in IIT, it feels like, yeah, this is what we do. Like we start, sometimes it works, sometimes it scales, sometimes it doesn't. From somebody looking from outside, it must be feeling like a totally different world, right? Like, did you as a student ever think that you would be running a startup in your second year or third year?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the process of making this into a startup was also not easy because all of us come from all the people who were part of this computer vision group back then, which became Hypos. Eventually, we came from very normal middle class families.
I guess in telling your parents that
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit for Microsoft, you would have been done.
So parents who've been like government employees, bank employees, etc., and people who spend their entire lifetime working for an organization like that, right? And telling them that I'm not going to sit for placements was not an easy thing at all. So I told my mom about this, and she did not understand this concept of not sitting for placement very clearly. And then on the day of placement, someone in her office happened to tell her that today is the placement day at IIT Madras. She calls me like, go sit for placements today. Like, what is happening for your interview? I told her, I didn't register for placements only. What are you telling me? Ah, so, and then that was already like a year into starting HyperVerge, right? So, it is not easy for parents to understand that, especially when they've not seen enough people in our communities, in our social circles who do that, and when everyone else from your class is not doing that and one of something else, they feel worried about, is this the right choice for my kid, right? And it comes from a place of very very good intention and wishing the best for their child, but without a lot of validation it becomes very hard. So what we decided to do back then, at the end of my fourth year, Kedar and I decided to travel to the US, and we thought we'll do like a Kickstarter campaign of sorts and raise some money from
So it'll little de-risk if you have some money in the bank.
tech savvy people from the valley who put in some money, and we will use that as validation to take to the parents of all of these people that your kid need not go to one of these places, and we are up to something good, and people in the valley who understand this technology are putting in money, right? So
I mean, a lot of times funding works like that. If somebody's giving you so much money, you must have something going with it.
yeah, so we were one of the early teams to get into deep learning, and back then 2013-14 in India it was not very common or popular, and we thought, I mean, it may or may not have been factually true, but at least we thought people in the valley are the people who are going to understand this technology, and we decided to go that, right? And at that time, we had built one of the first deep learning based scene recognition engines in the world, and amongst the early set of teams to
Scene recognition.
yeah, so you give it any photo, it will identify what is the context in this photograph. Is it a beach or a cafe or a forest or a meeting room or an office space or whatever it is, right?
This is much before you decided to move into KYC.
Yeah, much before. This was 2013-14 that I'm talking about. Um, so today these kind of image recognition APIs are very common. You give it an image, it will predict what is the context in it, right? But back then, people had not seen anything like this, and deep learning as a buzzword was becoming like very very popular. Andrew Ang had shifted to the Google Brain team, and there was this project about detecting cats from YouTube videos, right? And when Google sneezes, the whole world catches cold. So deep learning as a topic was going viral, but no one knew what was a real use case for it, right? What will you do detecting cats from YouTube videos? So using this scene recognition and face recognition, we said we will build a consumer app which will sort through the photos in your gallery, and you can search for things like my photos with a friend at the beach, right? And pull up the memories that you wanted to revisit. And we thought we'll do a Kickstarter campaign of sorts for this app and the technology behind it, and raise some money from the US and use that as validation. But when we went there and we had put together a demo where on one side you had Google image search and on another side our image recognition engine, and we used to tell people like, you search for anything and we'll just scroll and ask them to pick a photo, and we'll just like drag and drop that here, and instantly in less than a second it will predict what that image is, and if it is not any of the scene categories, it will also learn to tell that it is not one of these, right? It is not one of the scene categories that we expected to predict. So people went crazy playing around this, right? It was the first time they had like direct access to like a deep learning tool that they could play around with and give it some real samples and see it bright stuff. So
This is a very real problem. You have so many photos on your phone, you always wonder, can I just, pull up all the beach photos or all the screenshots? At least, can I pull up all the screenshots and delete them?
delete them, yeah, common problems that we used to hear back then, and this model was capable of doing all of that. But When we met people in the Bay Area, alumni of IITM, entrepreneurs who had built companies before, VCs, investors, people told us that, see, you can do your Kickstarter campaign and all of that, build your consumer app, launch it if you wish, but the technology behind this is way more powerful than what you're thinking of today, right? And you will end up solving really powerful problems for the industry if you take it there. And as a consequence of that, you'll end up spending a lot more money also, because these are larger problems to solve and you'll need a team and proper mechanisms to go after that kind of a market. So raise a lot more money than you're thinking of today. Ditch your Kickstarter campaign, go talk to VCs and raise
like $1 million or
yeah,
maybe
so,
five or so.
so that is what people told us, and that is exactly what we did in that trip, because we had no idea what to do. It was amongst the first few times we were being in the US, we didn't know whom to meet. Again, the entire IIT Madras.
One second, hold on. Who paid for this? Like US students, right? You're in fifth year.
Yeah. So we had incubated ourselves as part of the IITM incubation cell here. At IIT
You must have been one of the early incubatees.
early incubatees in the IITM Research Park ecosystem under IIT MIC. And we had gotten a initial funding round through IIT MIC book, and that is what helped fund this travel initially, and the process that we did in the US at that point of time. And not just that, you know tremendous amount of support through that entire process. Seshan Ramohan sir, whom we call fondly as the granddad of HyperVerge, again IITM alum who took us to places, and back then we would not have
He's done this to so many people.
so many entrepreneurs, and we have personally recommended many such juniors, upcoming entrepreneurs to go meet him. Like first thing that you do when you land up in Bay Area, go meet Session sir, right? Everything else you can do after that. Yeah.
And I think people outside the network underestimate how much support alumni give to their juniors. Simply, I don't even know why. They'll just say, you know what, I'll connect you or I'll help you or.
Yeah, and there's been an amazing pass it forward culture, right? So they help, and there is just absolutely no expectation, and for the gratitude that you have for all the support that you received, you want to pass it on to other people who are on that path after you. So that culture has been tremendous, and you've seen many such seniors and alums do that for us, and that is what has been propelling this ecosystem forward.
Amazing. So you built that app. I remember it was it called Silver?
Silver, yeah, it was called Silver at one point.
And something happened, right? Like to Silver.
Yeah. So 2015-16, Google Photos launched, and they did the two things that no startup could compete against. They made unlimited photo storage free, and they became the default gallery app on most Android phones, right? Both of which only a Google or an Apple could have probably done.
Yeah, and the threat, this is back in 2015, you're always worried. Everybody would ask you, what if Google does the same thing? And today, every AI startup asks the same question. What if ChatGPT or Perplexity does the same thing?
Absolutely.
Overnight, you're wiped off.
Yeah.
So that did happen to you. You were overnight.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
That absolutely happened. And fortunately for us, we were still in college. I mean, there was a bunch of seniors, juniors who are doing this together. I had just graduated. There were more people who are still in college who are coming out, yet to come out at that point, right? So our burn was super low. We could regroup as a team, think about what we are up to. That is on one side. On the other side, through the journey, fortunately, we had built very good fundamental AI models at that point, right? The deep learning models that we had built for be it scene recognition, be it face recognition, were amongst the best in the world even at that point of time. So the core technology was really powerful. That was on the other side. and we needed to figure out what is it that we wanted to do from here onwards, right? That is when we came together as a team, and deep learning was very hot at that point, and even hotter than when we had raised funds. And these big tech companies were acquiring startups left, right, and center, acquiring people, the whole research labs, and all of these things were happening common. So HyperVerge itself had like 3 acquisition offers from larger companies, and we were 12 or 13 people at that point of time.
That's fair. Even if you are a company where your main product has suddenly become irrelevant, if you have built an underlying technology, you have a great team,
Yeah.
then you are still very attractive for acquisition.
Yeah, yeah. And double-digit $1 million acquisition would have meant financially for the work that we had done, we would have made a good exit, and it is significant enough that we don't have to work ever again for money, right? So that was on one side, but the team really came together, and all of us shut ourselves up in a room, and we said, we are going to seriously think about why we came together, what is it that we have done, what is it that we really want to stand for, right? Because if we take this acquisition offer, then post that we all go our own ways, and it's difficult to put together that team back, right?
This is the famous IKP
Yeah,
pantry meeting.
IKP pantry meeting.
Can I just say, for those of you who don't know, everybody has heard, in our circles, everybody has heard this story where HyperVerge's product was no longer very relevant. They sort of closed themselves in this sort of a pantry room with a meeting room adjacent in IKP in Koramangala.
Yeah,
And they spent 2 days trying to figure out what to do next.
correct.
Right.
Yeah. The first thing that we understood from our reflection was that, see, we started off HyperVerge as a platform for people to come together, use their abilities to contribute to solving problems for people, right? And helping society at large in a very meaningful way. But what ended up happening in the process was the first segment that we had easy access to was other college students, and they ended up having a lot of clutter in their gallery, and it was an easy thing to get into. But we called this category of problems as perception problems, right? So imagine, like, we buy a new shirt and wear it, we can feel happy about it for maybe 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, but it's not like the fundamental quality of our life changes for the better, right? So today you can have your photos sorted, you can share it better, you can feel nice about it, but it's not like the fundamental quality of your life changes because of it. So this category was what we called perception problems, and what we really wanted to do was focus on fundamental problems where, whether you like it, you don't like it, you ask for it, don't ask for it, if an improvement happens in that area, the quality of your life automatically changes for the better.
Sure.
For example, think of education, right? As a kid, we might have been crying about going to school. But 20 years later, the life of a person who had access to education versus someone who did not have access to education would have diverged so much, right? So, education, healthcare, financial inclusion, poverty, climate change, some of these are more fundamental in that sense.
I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that among all the things you could solve, there's a set of perception problems.
Yeah.
What you're calling as perception. By the way, not to demean them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very happy that Google Photos gives me memories from 5 years or 10 years back.
Yeah.
And there are other problems which maybe cause upward mobility. Somebody gets a better access to education. Somebody is cured of illnesses or whatever. Uplifts the entire country out of poverty. Okay.
So that is what we called as fundamental problems, and we felt that for us that is what we are most passionate about solving, right? And we decided that we will not take these acquisition offers, and we will build a company focused on solving these fundamental problems, right?
Oh.
So we went to our investors and told them that was the tricky part, that you put in money, but we are not going to take this exit. And instead, we are going to work on.
Oh, right. If you'd taken the acquisition, the early investors would have also got.
Investors would have also gotten exit. But we are going to work on these fundamental problems. And And they told us, one very important thing, that see, these problems that we are talking about have existed for ages. Right? Today there are like 300 to 400 million people in India alone who are below sustainable income levels.
Yeah.
Right? These problems have existed for ages, and it is going to take many decades of effort to make an impact in that area. Right? Think of someone like an Elon Musk who says, I want to convert a significant percentage of the population to driving on renewable energy. Right? It is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take many decades of effort for a significant portion to make the shift. Right?
Yeah.
So any of these fundamental changes is going to happen over a long period of time, and as a startup, uh, by definition you don't have time on your side, right? So first figure out how you're going to make that happen. Around that time we started meeting a lot of other people, other entrepreneurs, and went and told them like, this is what we want to do, but we have no clue how to go about it, right? And we're very fortunate that we met Sridhar Vembu at that point. Sridhar is the founder and CEO of Zoho,
Also an alumnus.
also an alumnus of IIT Madras. We had I
I think his co-founder is also an alumnus.
also, yeah. So Sridhar told us that if you want to contribute by solving any of these fundamental problems, then you have to build an organization that stands the test of time, because it's going to need that much time to create a difference in any of these areas, right? And to earn time on your side, you need to have the economic ability also. You need to be financially sustainable. You need to be able to stand on your own feet for a long enough period of time and be able to solve any of these problems, right? Third thing, you need competence on your side. You need people with really strong capabilities,
Right.
and these problems are unsolved for a reason. So if you have really good competence, then you can go at solving any of these problems, right? So build an organization that has these three ingredients, that has time on its side, that has economic ability, that has competence, right? And to do that, first make your own money, right? That is what helps you earn these three, right? So he
A
said,
great point. Like if I look at Zoho now, and Zoho set up an office in Tenkasi and so on, and he speaks very strongly about building offices in rural India, and it's sort of like anti-urbanization or re-urbanization.
correct.
That is something he can do only at the scale of Zoho. He's Zoho, so he's able to do it. You and I can't. Maybe HyperVerge can, but definitely I can't.
Yeah.
So that's
So give examples of how um, if you build an organization for the long run, that is that has these three ingredients on their side, and they have the heart in the right place, then through every touch point that they come in contact with people, they will only figure out a way to contribute, right? So few examples from Zoho's story that you shared. One, Zoho has set up this thing called Zoho University, where
right.
they take people from villages, remote rural areas, people who have even just finished 12th standard, um, enroll them in Zoho University and help train them in essential tech skills, right? That an organization like Zoho itself will need. And post that course, they are absorbed in Zoho, right? So imagine a person who hasn't used a laptop in their life at all, or first generation
Yeah.
person who's getting exposed to technical skills, them upskilling themselves, them getting a job, well-paying job in the tech industry. It transforms the situation, one, in that family, because not just do they earn salaries which help them sustain the family, two, they get access to health insurance, which takes care of the family's health situation as well, right? In a lot of these families,
Absolutely. I mean, contrast that to our stories where we studied in Chennai in top schools, went to top coaching centers, came to IIT where we were taken care by this amazing, beautiful CFI system. So, yeah, totally understand what you're saying.
yeah. So that happens, and second, they will always have people around them, right? Like some brother, sister, cousins, friends, other people from the ecosystem, and they become role models for this entire community, right? So wherever this happened, we saw examples of other people, in the town, in the village, looking up to this individual, also getting enrolled in Zoho University, also in upskilling themselves, also getting jobs in the tech industry, and this was transforming, community after community.
Yeah.
And this was very powerful in solving the problem of bringing these 300 400 million people to sustainable income levels, right? The other example that he gave was when Zoho was doing really well, and at its peak they were in Chennai, they could have said, I will bring all people to the headquarters in Chennai, right? I'll recruit talent from across the country and bring them here. But when that happens, then you don't have, when the smart people from these local villages and towns start migrating to the cities, then there are not enough, smart people left back in those communities who can work towards the upliftment of those societies.
Maybe we can use the word skilled people because I'm sure the others are smart enough, but
Yeah,
maybe in a different way.
probably, yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Skills and exposure.
If the highest skilled person who can draw the highest salary in a town moves away, versus if he had stayed behind, he would have paid local taxes. He would have maybe built a house, given some employment.
Yeah.
The area sort of benefits.
Exactly. So what they ended up doing was creating smaller centers of Zoho campuses in various other parts of the country, rather than bringing people to one central hub in the city, right? So when these things started happening, then not only do people who take up jobs in Zoho stay back in those own community, in their own communities, but the entire ecosystem around the Zoho campus also starts evolving, right? People get jobs as, support staff, educational hubs start coming up around this, schools start developing, hospitals start developing, housing societies start coming up, people get jobs in these housing societies, people get jobs in these hospitals, in education institutions. Imagine stationery and other equipment that needs to be provided, transport starts improving, all of these things start developing around that ecosystem. So he gave examples, multiple such examples of how, by virtue of Zoho being, an organization that stood the test of time and doing really well as an economic engine, they were also able to power these contribution engines that help the society at large.
Understood. So from this idea that you have that I want to solve fundamental problems, I want to have a deeper impact in the world.
Yeah.
Sridhar is saying, hello, first take care of yourself, have a way to earn enough revenue.
Yeah.
And then maybe the world gives you that permission to do these things.
Correct. Our key takeaway was about building very strong, sustainable, long-term economic engines which have time, economic ability, and competence on their side, but built with the right awareness that we will use all of the economic ability that is coming out of this for the purpose of contribution rather than accumulation. So strong economic engines that power contribution engines became the vision that we started taking forward from that hour.
So when you walked out of that room, that is what the 15 or 20 of you thought, that this is the attitude we'll have going forward.
That's right. And the action plan from there on became simple. To earn that economic ability, we had to make our own revenues. So we opened up the tech stack that we had built to enterprises, started operating as a B2B business, and started generating real revenues from there on.
Nice. Eventually, you moved into KYC, and we know the story, and 1 billion people use. So great, fantastic. I get this. Actually, we'll come back to contribution a bit later. When you look around you now, there is a huge number of AI startups that are coming up. There's a lot of momentum. Did you see this coming? Because you've been doing it since 2012, 13. Did you expect this sort of like mass AI hysteria to come in?
Yeah, we felt that AI was certainly an area that was going to explode, because the use cases where society at large could benefit from AI solving those problems really well, right? So capabilities that had opened up post deep learning, even back then, we felt was going to be very, very powerful in solving some of these use cases, and that it was going to grow. What was interesting was the pace at which the space has evolved since then, and that was certainly something that we might not have predicted, but in a positive way, a lot of things have happened. It has also opened up a lot of other gaps in terms of um, what it enables fraudsters to do.
Yeah, sure. Deepfakes, for example,
Yeah,
has also opened up as a
exactly. What security risks are posed because of it, explainability,
yeah.
privacy, some of these other topics have become more important and relevant today um in um, line with the growth in itself.
In KYC itself, 5 years back, maybe the biggest concern was, am I identifying the right person with a fraud ID card? But today it's like the video that's been submitted, is it a AI generated video, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
that
real problem.
very helpful. So you're saying that with the access you had, you could see that it's going to come, but the pace at which it's come is surprised you.
Sure.
Has it added pressure on you? Do you feel like you need to grow faster, or I don't know, do more things, or add new products? Is that happening?
See, in the lifetime of building an organization, market evolution is a factor that we always have to take into picture, and we have to be very, very dynamic to these changes that happen in the market, be it the technology landscape evolving, be it the regulatory landscape evolving, be it changes with our customers, competitive landscape. All of these things are very dynamic and constantly keep changing. Right? So it is very important to build an organization that can adapt to these changes very rapidly and do what is needed. In our case specifically, right from the early days, our focus was to do things that will not get disrupted by general purpose AI. It was always to solve problems that are very niche and use case specific, and in that use case, even if we are going head on head against the biggest tech companies in the world, it had to stand out. And a difference between 95% versus a 99.9% in that area should have a very serious consequence, right?
Right.
So those are the problems that we are going after. So every subsequent product that we are working on, future innovation that is happening is also targeted towards that category of problems.
That is interesting. You're saying, let me see if I got this right. You're saying that from an industry point of view, there are some problems that the industry is throwing at people.
Yeah.
On the other side, a lot of these AI companies, which are AI products which are coming out,
Yeah.
are not really responding to the product, but responding to some new technology. So maybe some of them may not stick for a while, or by the time the problem is recognized, there'll be much more nuance that you'll have to work for. Is that a right interpretation?
Or they have to build modes in other ways. Technology itself might not create a sustainable advantage. Technology leveraging some of these advancements in AI can help them solve a problem right now and get a foot in the door with customers, and build a business with them. But through their engagement with these customers, they might have to figure out some other moat as to why they will not get replaced. When technology, I mean, everyone else also has the same technology and is able to meet the same requirement in the market. But every business fundamentally will have to figure out what is their moat for not getting replaced.
Yeah, fair enough. So you have you've developed your technology from scratch. You know it much better. You worked with customers for 5, 6, 7 years. So it's not like you are very threatened by new AI companies coming up and doing similar things. That's interesting. I also feel like when you are giving this answer, um, it's a very CTO answer, right? But you started as a student club. So how have you undergone this personal journey from, an engineer who's very fascinated that his 500 lines of code has made this wagon driver very excited,
Yeah.
to this CTO who's thinking about industry problems, niche problems, product maps, high quality talent. I don't know. I don't know what you think on a daily basis, but how has that personal journey been?
I would say when we're thinking about starting up, uh, in our wildest dreams, we would not have imagined everything that we would have to go through and what all that responsibility meant. Right? There's no way I would have imagined what I would be doing today, 5 years back or 10 years back, or even 2 years back, for that matter. Um, I think it is evolving continuously, and the thing that there are few things that help me go through this evolution. One is the purpose that you're working towards. Every day I wake up and go to work, I know that if HyperVerge does a really good job at building the organization that it wants to be, then the upliftment that we intend to make happen for these 300 400 million people is a more real possibility. Right. So that purpose is something that we find inspiring, and personally that gives me a reason to wake up and go to work even when it's not easy.
Are you saying that it's not really possible to figure out what are the skills I want all the time, but if the vision and the reason to go to work is clear?
In my case it was like that. Maybe there is a way, but we constantly keep learning about what is relevant in this space. So with entrepreneurs who are 18 to 24 months ahead of us or 36 months ahead of us, we try to spend time with them, learning about what should we prepare ourselves for in this transitions that they're going through.
Right. So as you reached out to Sridhar, you must have reached out to many other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And as you reached out to Session sir earlier. So, okay, I get the thread.
Correct. So that is something that we go through. The second thing that has been very helpful for me personally has been meditation. So every day, come what may, whatever whatever be the situation, otherwise in life, I take those 2 hours to meditate, and it helps me develop equanimity to whatever is happening. Right. So how can I be happy irrespective of whatever is happening externally? Then we don't end up going to work or doing anything else uh, for seeking joy from it, but we are already joyful, and the work that we are doing is a manifestation of our joy in the work.
And of course, HyperVerge is one of those unique offices which has a meditation room in, I almost always has had, even when you were a smaller office.
Yeah. Now I hope it is not unique and more people do it.
Yeah.
That is our wish.
That's amazing. So, what I'm sensing is that all of you are very aware of the good fortune that you have had and the effort that everybody else has put in into uh, sort of making you who you are. And you've reached out to mentors. You've spoken about the professors that taught you and so on. And you're very aware that to build a conscious business, or there is something called a conscious business, and there's something that you're building towards uh, growing your revenue so that you can do something else with that revenue, so that you are in a position to influence the world in a better way, right? So, and what I also know of Hyperverge is that this is not just talk, and that you actually have a contribution wing. So, do you and everyone you talk to in Hyperverge is very deeply connected with it. So, do you want to talk about it and explain to everyone?
So, we did not want this to just be a vision or a dream, right? That we will become very large, have a lot of money, and then we will do something. So, our approach was always that as soon as we hit product market fit and we are generating revenues and we are out of survival mode, we should immediately launch this. So that is exactly what we did. We have built something called HyperVerge Academy, where we take people from underprivileged backgrounds and help take them through a 6-month bootcamp, upskill them on essential tech skills, and help them get placed with at least a 5 LPA job in the tech industry at the end of this. We have a dedicated contribution team that runs this initiative, and every person in HyperVerge figures out some way to contribute to this, right? So if you take people who are good at their own skills, so someone who's a software developer, so they contribute as a mentor in a full stack development course, right? So they take maybe 4 or 5 students and mentor them on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and be available for support throughout this bootcamp to ensure that the student develops the skills that are necessary, has a mentor to interact with whenever they have doubts, and they are able to get this job. This happened in software engineering, this happened in AI teams, it has happened in other places. We've launched the design bootcamp recently, QA is another course that we conducted. So there are like multiple of these streams where people can sign up depending on their background, areas that they are good at, they are passionate about, and we train them in that area and help them get a job. Then there are people who help these learners with power skills. A lot of them might have the core skill, but they might not be comfortable communicating with another person, right? They end up getting rejected in a group discussion or in a HR round or something like that. So how can we help them communicate? How can we help them be confident in projecting themselves, in having a conversation, in reaching out when they have a doubt? So confidence is another area that we help them with. Conducting mock interviews, doing resume writing. How can they collaborate with other people in an environment? That becomes a very essential area, because we can help them clear an interview and get a job, but what happens after they get a job, right? It is very important, and they might have never worked in a collaborative environment before in their life at all, in a team project. So it becomes very important to help upskill them in those areas. So there are people who work on power skills with these learners. There are people who sponsor the program for these students, right? Apart from what our HyperVerge is doing directly, they might do as an individual sponsor as well. Additionally, people might need devices. We try to ensure that it is not a liability on the family, right? So by default, people who are coming from this kind of a background, the trade-off that they end up making is, if I take up a job, even some labor intensive job or a data entry job or whatever, I am contributing something to the family, versus if I take a course for upskilling, then I have to take some money from the family and provide a care, right? So we ensure that people don't even have to do that trade-off, and that at least that much money that they would have earned is already given to them as a stipend. So the only thing that they need to do during the course is to focus on upskilling themselves. Then there are people who build tools for this upskilling. So we built a tool called Sensei, which leverages LLM. So when the mentor is not available, or when people are practicing in their own free time, etc., we built an LLM based tool which helps act like a mentor to the student, right? So they can pick up a topic like, I want to learn Python, and it will break down exercises for these learners,
Oh.
and it'll ask questions on concepts. It'll give them programming tasks. It'll review their code, give it feedback. These are all things that have been built by people in HyperVerge, right? So um, everyone, depending on their own skills and volition, figures out some way to contribute to this system. Today, where we stand, last year, for example, 100 such students came through the system, got placed at the end of this with at least a 5 LPA job. And every year we are trying to compound this growth rate as well, right? The number of people who come out of HyperVerge Academy, that should keep scaling as the economic engine grows as well.
Nice. We covered so much ground, and we started with what HyperVerge does, and you spoke to us a little bit about how your AI is not a wrapper and is built fundamentally ground up. And almost through that entire journey, now we are talking about how HyperVerge imagines itself almost like a dual engine company with an economic engine and a contribution. That's amazing. I don't know, understand what the next 5, 10, I mean, if you wish to share it, what the next 5, 10 years will look like.
Yeah. So, a lot of things are um, very dynamic from the life of a stand-up. So it's very hard to predict specifically what will happen. But few things that are constant are things that I can talk about. One, from the company vision perspective, we want to help more learners go through HyperVerge Academy, and as many people as possible from this 300-400 million people that we can take out of from below sustainable income levels to above sustainable income levels. We would aspire to do that. So that is one trajectory that will keep continuing. From our products perspective, to give an analogy, right? If you look at Amazon, see, a lot of things in the tech world continuously keep changing, but Amazon built their product vision around what is consumer behavior that doesn't change, right?
Right.
So as a
Always wanted faster, always wanted cheaper.
exactly, right? So you would always want things delivered to you faster and cheaper, and that is not going to change. It was relevant 10 years before, relevant 5 years before, will be relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And the technology of making this happen can change, right? So imagine having an ebook store, bookstore earlier that delivers books to you versus having a Kindle reader, right? So and you just get an ebook delivered to you and start reading instantly. So uh, the 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 methodology of achieving the solution can change, but this specific consumer need itself remains. So in financial services, what we want to make happen is make financial transactions faster, easier, and more trusted. Right? So all of these financial interactions that happen on a day-to-day basis, right? If you think about what should be the future of that 10 years from now, people are going to want it to be risk free. You don't want fraudulent things to happen. You want to be able to trust and do the financial interaction, and you always want it to be faster and easier, right? So we will continue to build products that power this product vision in the journey forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's amazing that you have built from here, like literally from this building where we are sitting, and it's been what, 10 years, 12 years since.
10 years, sir.
Yeah, amazing. I'm amazed at how much. Um, I mean, we say often that IIT Madras is the best place to build, and companies like yours or Aether, they sort of gone through that whole journey, right? Like CFI and then incubation cell, research park. You've had the benefit of great professors who have helped you. Most of you have done really well in your courses also. So there's a lot of academic. It, it's it's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Very fortunate that these things have happened, and extremely grateful for every person who has been part of this trajectory. And there are numerous people, and I'm sure I missed many names. But grateful to the entire IITM ecosystem and every person who has been involved in this trajectory so far.
Thank you, Vignesh.
Thank you. Thanks, Amrit.